You know, whenever a story like the Jeffrey Epstein case blows up, the details are just horrifying. And when the dust starts to settle, we're all kind of left asking the same exact question.
Our first instinct is always the same, right? We go into detective mode. We try to figure out the signs, the profile of the next monster so we can catch them before it's too late. It feels like the right thing to do, the logical question to ask. But what if it's completely wrong?
In fact, what if I told you that asking that specific question is pretty much a guarantee that we're going to fail over and over again?
So, we need to flip the script. The real question isn't about hunting individuals. It's this: how do we break this system that lets them operate in the first place? We have to shift our entire focus from the person to the process.
So where do we start with that? Well, the first step is we have to completely retrain how we see and hear things. We need to stop looking for a cartoon villain and start getting really good at recognizing a repeatable pattern. And this is a huge distinction. See, hunting the monster has us looking for some uniquely evil person who just looks and acts evil. But identifying the model, that's different. That's about looking for a blueprint, a set of conditions and behaviors that can be run by anyone with enough power, no matter how charming or respectable they seem on the outside.
And that blueprint, it leaves clues. There are clear, systemic red flags. These aren't just random coincidences, they are the ingredients. You've got a powerful person with unchecked access to a vulnerable group. You've got that low hum of rumors that just never quite goes away. A history of secret settlements. You see these things together, that's not bad luck. You are literally looking at the architecture of an abuse system being built.
I'm sure you've heard this phrase before, right? We usually brush it off as just gossip, but it's not. That phrase is hard evidence. It is a giant, flashing red light telling you that the entire system of accountability has already failed. It means the truth is out there, but people are too scared to say it out loud.
And this is the critical shift we have to make. We're totally conditioned to treat those rumors as, messy, emotional stuff that needs to be shut down. But we need to start seeing them as data points. Look, one rumor is just a dot on a map. But a whole bunch of similar rumors over a long period of time, that's not emotion. That's a trend line. That is raw risk data screaming for someone to analyze it.
But here's the thing. You can't analyze data you don't have. And you are never going to get it if the people holding it are terrified to share it. So this brings us to the absolute foundation of all of this. We have to protect the people who are brave enough to speak up.
And I'm not talking about some symbolic gesture here. We need real, concrete protections. First, their identity and their livelihood have to be secure. That means their job, their visa, their family's safety. Second, they need independent legal help. Powerful abusers use their money to just financially crush people in court. We have to level that playing field. And third, and this one is so important, we have to reverse the moral burden. The focus shouldn't be on whether the whistleblower is a perfect person. The only question that matters is, does the dangerous pattern they are describing actually exist?
Let's just be brutally honest about what this means. If the price for telling the truth is complete personal and financial ruin, well, the system isn't neutral anymore. It's made a choice. It is actively encouraging crime by making sure no one ever talks. Okay, so let's say we get that right. We're protecting the people who speak out, and now we're getting the data. What's next? The next stage is to go on the offensive and start dismantling the fortress of power that these abusers build around themselves.
And it really is a fortress, built on 4 huge interlocking pillars. You've got money to buy silence, the law to intimidate people with lawsuits and NDAs, reputation to create a smokescreen of goodwill, and then you've got the media, which basically acts as the gatekeeper for the whole story. And that role, the media's role, is incredibly crucial.
One of the most common tactics the media uses is something called false balance. It's when they say they're presenting both sides to be fair. But hold on. One side is a victim who's been through trauma, and the other side is a multi-million-dollar team of lawyers and PR experts. That's not fairness. That's creating the illusion of a legitimate debate when really there isn't one. A crime is not up for debate.
And the words they choose have so much power. Calling something a sexual scandal makes it sound like celebrity gossip, but organized abuse correctly labels it as a criminal operation. Complicated private life minimizes it. Systemic crime points to a calculated, repeatable pattern of harm. The language is never neutral. It's either helping expose the crime or it's helping to cover it up.
So you've got this huge gap, right, between what we think the media's job is and what it often ends up being in reality. In an ideal world, its allegiance is to the weak. But in reality, its first allegiance is often to itself, to avoiding lawsuits, to not losing access. The ideal is to expose power. But the reality is that it often depends on that same power. That gap, that's the space where these systems of abuse are allowed to grow.
So this leads us to the single most powerful question you can ask. Don't get bogged down in one specific allegation that a team of lawyers can easily deny. Instead, focus on the pattern that is impossible to deny. When you shift the question from, did you do this one thing, to, how have you gotten away with this for so long, you put the entire system on trial, not just the person.
So, we've talked about recognizing the pattern, protecting the people who speak, and taking down the fortress. The final piece of this puzzle is about looking forward. It's about being proactive and building a new culture that stops these systems from ever taking hold in the first place. And this isn't about simple lessons like be a nice person. No, this goes way deeper. It's about teaching our kids from a young age about power dynamics. It's about changing our culture to say that the more power and success you have, the more scrutiny you should face, not less. And as the public, we have to start demanding something different. We need to demand accountability over just juicy drama.
And when you put it all together, you arrive at a conclusion that's, well, it's pretty tough to swallow. People like Epstein, they aren't a bug in an otherwise healthy system. They are the logical, predictable result of a system that is designed to protect power, value access over truth, and punish anyone who steps out of line.
Yeah, that's the hard truth. And it's hard because it means if we don't change the system itself, the next monster isn't just a possibility, they're an inevitability.
So, where does that leave us? What's the one thing to take away from all of this? It's this. We have to stop getting distracted by hunting the individual monster. It's a game we will always lose. The real work, the hard work, the work that will actually make a difference, is destroying the cave, the system of power and silence and protection that creates them and feeds them. That is how we stop the next one.